Charlotte's Compass is an exploration of the human condition, and I'm looking at the big things that drive us, what motivates us. And one of those is the need to survive.
I think I told this story. Did I tell this story? It was Sir Ranulph Fiennes or someone like that. He's had double bypass or something. He's had surgery in his heart, and it's all looking bleak for him. And he says, you know what? In my convalescence and when I recovered, then I'm going to go and run a marathon on every continent. And after that, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. And everyone's like, you will, yeah, you're full of it, da 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 da. He says, I will. And he goes and he runs a marathon on every continent. And then he goes and he manages to get up Mount Everest. And when he comes back down, there's an interviewer waiting for him. And he says, you know, you attempted this once before and you failed. What made you get there this time? And he said, well, it was very simple, actually. I just put one foot in front of the other.
I met Ben in London, and he is an ambassador for Movember, which is an organisation that's dedicated to raising awareness about men's health issues all over the world.
Everyone claims the phrase, but fun is our Trojan horse for men's health to get engaged. And Movember was born in a pub. We spend a lot of time where men are. And where men are socialising. We get guys in that comfortable place that then we can seed in the really important stuff and break down those barriers and get guys thinking about their health and talking about their health.
But how did you get into it?
I got into it in a very, very direct way. 10 years ago, almost to the day, actually, Tuesday, 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and on the Friday before the bank holiday weekend, and then I had my testicle removed on the Tuesday, so it's 3 days later. So it was a very quick process, and I didn't know anything about Movember at the time. I was 26 and indestructible, as you can imagine.
So what happened on the second time round?
Yeah, so second time round, I was engaged to be married. We didn't have any kids, and literally found a lump and had an ultrasound straight away. It's like, well, there is something there, but as we can't conclusively say what it is, you might want to think about just getting on with trying to have a family naturally. So we did, and that was sort of October, November time, and luckily in February, my fiancée fell pregnant, and then
wow,
which was pretty insane.
That must have been a relief.
Yeah, it was just bonkers. I then had a CT scan, which showed actually, unfortunately, that it had spread. I didn't beat cancer. I beat chemo. Cancer didn't hurt me. I went into hospital healthy, right? Yeah, young, healthy, fit, active. Cancer wasn't stopping me doing anything. It wasn't making me sick.
How do you get back from your mind being in that place? Is it the love and support of your wife? Is it the idea of having a child that you're fighting for? What keeps you going?
Chemotherapy, to me, I really took it as a challenge. It was like, right, you're trying to win this fight, and I'm not having it. It's like, you tell me what I've got to do, I'm just going to do it. So I just got in that mindset. It was like, whatever you throw at me, I'm going to beat you. I'm not giving in to you. And I carried on fighting everything. I ended up having to go to counselling, and she said, has anybody told you don't need to fight anymore? I was like, no. So, well, you don't. You congratulate yourself because you've done it and acknowledge the fact that you've won, and you're not fighting that anymore. So stop fighting everyone else and just give yourself a break. It's like, I don't have to fight everything. Some things are worth fighting for, but I started to learn to let go.
I met Jonathan in his vineyard in the south of France, and he explained to me how he used to work in downtown Manhattan, and that he witnessed firsthand the events of September 11th.
Osama bin Laden decided to destroy the World Trade Center one day when I was on my way to work. So I saw the first plane hit the first tower from a few hundred meters away. My apartment was only 500 meters from the World Trade Center. Yeah. I had colleagues who were killed in the attack, and just having to deal with the stress that people have, the sort of post-traumatic stress that people who were affected by that had over the next month.
Do you have any, you know the way sometimes people say that when there's panic or shock, it's fight or flight. Do you remember anything about it? Or?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I can remember it very clearly, really. Yeah, but there was never any panic.
Really?
Yeah, there was never any panic. And even among New Yorkers who were there, I was surprised at how little panic there was.
What was it like? What happened?
People just kind of moved away. People went, okay, I'll turn around and I'll walk.
I'm going in the opposite direction.
I'm going to walk calmly in the opposite direction.
Was there anything going through your head at the time? Can you remember if there was anything going through your head?
I think you just feel like you're in like a sort of, you know, a bad disaster movie.
And what happened in the, you know, that day when?
So that day, after I'd seen the first plane hit, I went back to the apartment to tell Rachel what I'd seen, because I knew that she wouldn't really know. Nobody would know.
Yeah.
And
you had just a child at this. You had a 1-year-old.
So she got Lydia as a baby in the pushchair.
Yeah.
Put some clothes on, came downstairs, and we went out to look at it to try to decide whether, like, how serious it was.
Yeah.
And I think I was even videoing it and saying, well, I don't think it's going to, like, destroy the World Trade Center. You know, it looks like a little gash in the side of it.
And did you just think it was a mistake, an accident?
I thought it was an accident at the time. But then as we were saying that and looking at that, the other plane came from the other direction and hit the other building. And then you realise that it's not an accident anymore. And then we realised, like, this is a planned attack. That this is terrorism.
The real world is beautiful, but there are things I didn't know.
John is a psychotherapist I met in Dublin who lost his sight when he was quite young. And I think that because he's had to deal with so much, he has a really pure understanding of what it is to cope with loss.
I'm not quite sure who said this, but isn't it grief is the price of love? That you love somebody and then they're gone, so you grieve. You grieve their loss. Whilst we're alive and we're breathing, we're constantly evolving. And perhaps closer towards our death, or maybe even in our deathbed, there is some sort of resolution whereby we feel a deeper connection with the past, the present and the future. It all becomes one, and that sense of loss dissipates. I don't know. I have to find out. I'll mail you when I do. We don't know everything. We can't know everything. We do our best. And the greatest thing that we share, all of us share, is our humanity. But we don't necessarily understand it or have deep enough relationships to impart it or to experience it between two people. So it is a great privilege to love another human being. It's so wonderful when they love you back. And when you've experienced the depth of love, what it really means, beyond the rings and the dresses and the fine houses, but what love really means, the depth of that. It's not known to everybody, but that brings great happiness and fulfillment. And I can't see my wife or daughter anymore. I have never really seen my beautiful daughter as a young woman, but I know her deeply, and she knows that. And I know she knows that. I feel that deep sense of connection, which is like Mr. Mulhall. My mind turned back, but my spirit carries on.
I think you're a very wise man.
I didn't invent the wheel. I simply rolled it another foot or two along the footpath.
When you look from how you're going to get from A to Z, it's near impossible. But if you say I need to get from A to B, you can do that. And then you can go A, B, C, and I think it's that simple. Put a positive attitude on and just take one step after the other. And all of a sudden, you'll arrive at a point where you go, gosh, how did I get there? I think.